Yo, what's going on YouTube? It's your favorite Mark. Hey RV. Ha, what's going on? All right, haven't done a wrestling video in a minute here, and I thought this would be a good one to do. So, shout out to Jim Cornette for the video. The title of the video is Jim Cornette reviews Dark Side of the Ring's Billy Jack Haynes episode. So I actually went and watched this. This was this is like, I don't know, like, it's a really sad story because the dude, so like years and years and years ago, I watched several of his shoot interviews where he was claiming some wild claims. Wild. And I mean, just really out there. I mean, talking just like the craziest left wing, right wing conspiracy. Just multiply it by 100, and that's what you were getting with Billy Jack Haynes. Trying to connect dots that weren't there. It's just really, really crazy. So, and the episode goes through like his career. It also highlights what he's doing now, and apparently he's incarcerated. So, apparently he's being accused of killing his wife or something like that. I'm not sure. So it's something he's definitely being charged with second degree murder of, I think, his wife or girlfriend or something like that. Um, I don't know about you guys. I love the Dark Side of the Ring show. I mean, I've learned so much. I mean, they have 6 seasons. I highly encourage anyone, if you haven't watched any of these episodes, do yourself a favor. They're really well done, and Jericho does an amazing job narrating for sure. So, all right, um, huge shout out to all the supporters as always. Oh, and for the few people that have commented on these videos and talk about why I speed this up, I speed it up because I can't watch things at normal speed anyway, and so I want to get through the video. I want to respect your time, but I also want to respect your ears too. So we'll find a happy medium here to play these videos. So huge shout out to all the supporters. Here we go.
Anyway, before we talk about the current crazy people, let's talk about the crazy people from the past, Brian. Because there was another episode of Dark Side of the Ring on Vice TV focusing on one of the crazier of the crazy people.
Yeah, he was.
In the land of fruits and nuts, he's the head cashew. Our friend Billy Jack Haynes, who, as I...
Oh, man, that's funny.
Aptly and succinctly put it at the start of the program, started out his career as a star and finished up as a nobody. He went in reverse.
Which is really crazy, and he was pushed right off. He looks like Dr. Death Steve Williams.
And when you think about it, especially from the footage that they showed, that was pretty much true. But I'm going to let you start and vent on all the historical inaccuracies and or dates that were misrepresented. But this was overall, I thought, and you can tell me if you felt the same way, more one of the shows about a guy who at one point was a wrestler, but has just more batshit crazy before and after potentially he was in the business than he was while he was in it.
Yeah, this was Dark Side ... of the Ring. They spent a lot of time dealing with a jailhouse interview where he said nothing.
But his lawyer wouldn't let him.
Every single question, his lawyer, that's all we saw was him not being able to do it. Whoever his friend was, I found intriguing. He had some...
Yeah, that dude was... Yeah, that dude didn't want to talk either.
Friend who very matter-of-factly would, we can't really talk about that, but there's verification.
Right.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah, and why didn't he communicate with Billy Jack's attorney?
I thought you were really good on here. Again, I don't want to kill them for the historical stuff, because obviously they're trying to tell a Billy Jack Haynes story, but if you're going to tell the story about him being a wacky, crazy wrestling character, why leave out everything? Why leave out... They said, he was working all these smaller territories, and then he went to the WWF in 1986. No. Actually, he went to the WWF in 1984. They put him on the front cover of that program riding a sled with Hulk Hogan and Wendy Richter and Barry Windham, and then he never arrived. Then he went to Crockett, where he got a big push, and they were going to give him a bigger push.
But wait, you skipped over... He was in Florida for a while too, but also the one I thought you were going to talk about that he skipped over. And I told him the story, but when he came to World Class, because Kerry was going to do the movie and they thought they were going to lose Kerry, or at least that they believed Kerry was going to do the movie. I don't think it got that far. And Chris Adams left town because he thought Billy Jack was going to fucking kill him. And that kind of lent itself to Billy Jack's overall demeanor and reputation. But yeah, and we've told that story here before. So look up the world-class stuff.
You wouldn't know from watching this that he was married to Jeannie Clark. Chris Adams was never married to Jeannie Clark. Billy Jack Haynes was. But that wasn't brought up here. But Billy Jack...
I don't know if Billy Jack remembers by this point that he was married.
Billy Jack walked out of every single place. Sean Waltman once told me, and Sean was a fan when Billy Jack hit Florida. He said Billy Jack was bigger than Dusty at that
That's crazy.
point in time. Again, Dusty had been there for a while, but Billy Jack was huge.
Wow.
And then Billy Jack was gone. I mean,
Yeah.
and that happened it happened in Portland eventually. There wasn't too many people you think of that just immediately got that level of a push everywhere and always had that intensity. You think of the early 80s magazines, you think of Tony Atlas, you think of Kerry Von Erich, you think of Hogan, eventually the Road Warriors. But him, Billy Jack, I mean, It seemed like he was a dead certain pick to be a major star in the business, but that's before everyone realized he's a kook. And the other thing I'll say as a critique is, I think this was an example of the people who make this show being too obsessed with shoot interviews. And this seemed more like a love letter to the Billy Jack Haynes shoot interviews that they love than a coherent...
Well, dude, those shoot interviews are crazy, though, dude. I mean, come on, man. Those shoot interviews are nuts. I think that's what got him, once he got done with wrestling, that put him back on the map, dude, because those shoot interviews are insane.
Comprehensive story. I know. Then you hear, they only have 42 minutes. Let me tell you something. You can tell a coherent story. You don't need reenactments of everything, especially when no one looks like Ken Patera. You got some fucking schlub in there. Patera was good here. No, the reenactments, I know it's like their thing, their look, but at a certain point you have to realize all they're doing is taking away from time and story, and Jericho sucks as a narrator. But other than that,
really?
It was at least interesting.
Really? I think, I don't mind him at all. I think he does okay.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, I like the talking heads. Because
dude, Bill Alfonso, dude, he got new teeth. He looks totally different.
And I mean, again, even if my Dallas story made the cutting room floor, Dave Sierra, Cuban Assassin, was instrumental because he's one of the guys that helped him break in to begin with in Portland. Rip Oliver's son, because Rip, and they talked about, and I couldn't, but we'll get to what Billy Jack did to Rip later on in his life.
Yeah,
but
that's so, oh my gosh. Dude.
When Billy came to Dallas, he brought Rip Oliver with him because he wanted the story I got, and I managed Rip. So I got the story from him was that Billy wanted at least one heel he knew he could work with. And they said, okay. And Rip is another guy that had helped him break in. And when Billy Jack gave his notice because they found out that Kerry was coming back, and I guess whatever the story was, they didn't want to honor the guarantee. And I'll just go back to Portland. That's when they finished Rip up by hurting Mike and doing a deal there because Rip went back to Portland with Billy. So Dave Sierra, Rip Oliver's son, Uncle Dave was on, Mike Miller, and Lynn Denton, the grappler, who have been around the Northeast forever, and Bill Alfonso, Fonzie.
Northwest.
Yep.
What did I say, the Northeast?
Northeast.
I'm so used to the other side, the other hand. But like you said, he started as the biggest star that he would be for the first few years, but by the time he got to the WWF in 86 for the run, that was the last year, and then it was over. And then he was bleh. Patera is the only one who thought that he was a nice guy. And even then later on, he said, well, he was manipulative and had an agenda, but otherwise he had a good personality.
Everyone I've ever talked to that knew him, I don't know if nice was used, quiet guy. I think nice was used.
Quiet.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is that we had heard in the Crockett locker room, and now with his record, he had a couple of assaults, but he didn't have a murder or homicide or whatever. But we had heard in the Crockett locker room when he came in that he had gotten a fight with some guy and hit him so hard he killed him. And had been in prison. I think he'd been in prison over the assaults. Apparently the guy lived. But that's why he had a real weak handshake with the boy, not even the dead fish workers handshake, just like, I don't want to squeeze too hard. And he was very soft-spoken, like he didn't want to get mad, lose control of his temper, which when you hear some of the testimony from some of the people that were around him a lot, that may make some sense. But it just, he's very quiet, very, peaceful, but what the fuck? Almost too much.
And I know they really didn't address it, and I know you really couldn't make money there or anything, but his run in 95 in Memphis was incredible. He was the best heel in the business.
Well, and that was the thing that it was a brief period of time, and we did talk about that also because they reminded me, the Dark Side guys, that he worked for me, that he was there at the Super Bowl show.
Super Bowl against Brad Armstrong, right?
Yeah. He had, after the WWF, he went back to Portland, tried to run opposition to Don Owens, the guy who had broke him in, but he was going to be the Vince McMahon of Oregon. And when that didn't work, he was out of the business for a couple years, as far as anybody knew. And then he showed up. Randy Hales was booking at that time in Memphis and showed up there as a heel. And he didn't have the physique. He wasn't cut like he was before, but he still had the size, so he could carry it off, right?
Yeah, he had a run in, I think, 91 in WCW opposite Matt Bourne as Big Josh.
Yes, that's right.
He was, I think, Black Blood, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
The lumberjack had some evil opposition.
Yeah.
Yes.
And a lot of these guys, when Vince got rid of them in '88, the only place they really had to go, because they never ended up working for WCW, was the UWF. So a lot of these guys, when Herb Abrams started up, you saw them. Ken Patera, Killer Bees, Billy Jack Haynes, Bruno. Like everyone that left WWF in 1988 ended up working for Herb Abrams.
Well, because he was kind of like an older, poorer, and potentially already crazier version of Tony Khan. He just wanted to hire everybody that was available to be hired that he had been a fan of. But with Billy Jack, he OD'd on the plane, which is what the final straw in the WWF was. And he said he was taking 25 pills a day in the 80s of whatever description or kind. And he left guys hanging, and he blamed his head and drugs in the Oregon Wrestling Federation. And that's when he started doing the shoot promos. He was a big time coke dealer, and he did this and that. And I think we talked about it at the time a while back. I do not doubt that Billy Jack Haynes sold some people some cocaine. I do not doubt that that he probably beat a person up a time or two trying to collect some money for himself or other people. He was obviously somebody that would sell people stories and bills of goods and try to capitalize on it. But then when the stories get...
But for why, though? What was he benefiting for just making stuff up like that? Just the attention?
It's so bizarre and so far-fetched. And yes, the lawyer is advising him to leave certain subjects alone, but when one of his stories is he delivered coke to Andy Gibb, and he was the witness to the kids on the track murders.
Oh, yeah,
and
that's just... And then, like, he wasn't even charged... He wasn't even charged with helping facilitate that.
Dad was either Vince McMahon Sr. or Lenny Montana.
The Andy Gibb story, is it that it was the coke that killed him, or he just sold him coke? Because that's not outrageous.
Well, no, I think it's the coke that killed him, but yeah, just that he just happened to, he's the Forrest Gump of crime and happened to be involved in all these things with all these famous people.
If you walk around with pockets of coke, you could run into all sorts of people.
Well, but as Bill Alfonso said,
like
when... Well, then he should know. He had the best line of the show. When Billy Jack would say, he would try to allude that he was working for the Clintons from Arkansas. Fonzie said,
"What?" Yeah, Fonzie's like, dude, Bill Clinton, like, what do you mean?
How the fuck would Bill Clinton call Billy Jack Haynes? And then sometimes the easiest, most correct answer is the simplest. Why the fuck would Bill Clinton call Billy Jack Haynes? There's a goddamn coked up, lunatic, fucking punch drunk, as they used to say, wrestler. You could probably find more reliable fucking people in the special forces. And he said the Bush family was involved in 9/11, and he got beaten up for real by somebody for some reason in 2006. But he told the local journalist that was working on his story out there that a local crime family did it at their car lot over a bad coke deal in the 80s where he ripped them off. Well, why did they wait 20 years?
Yeah,
Could it have been for something else or just some random...
Usually in the experience in that world, you don't wait 20 years to you don't wait that long to go back and retaliate.
Motherfucker that he tried to con, and he concocted a story. Because the same journalist said that he told Billy Jack a story about a murder that he was working on that Billy Jack had heard for the first time. And 2 months later, Billy Jack was telling the journalist that he was there when it happened.
Was that a journalist or a cop?
No, that was a journalist that was working on that story.
I thought that was a cop, as I remember back. Okay.
But, I mean, and then when he was homeless, Billy Jack, he moved in with Rip Oliver when Rip was dying from cancer. And Rip's son said he was stealing Rip's pills. And he talked Rip into doing a deal where they took money from the Cauliflower Alley Club to save Rip's house. Rip knew he was dying, and they just split it. But then he just, again, he was homeless and just moves into this house of a guy that helped break him in and steals his pills and lives in his fucking house when he's dying. And then when his other friend died, that's when he married the friend's mother, who was 85 years old. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's so weird. So weird.
You have to hate hearing that if you're someone who donates to Cauliflower Alley or someone who, gives them money. The idea they could be getting scammed like that's pretty awful.
Yeah, and all the way, and stealing the cancer patient's medicine.
That's insane, dude.
And
I'm glad you brought up his haircut. Although you said Pete Best. Pete Best never really had a mop top. It's more like Brian Jones from the dead.
Not from the Grateful Dead, from the fucking actual dead.
What a great head of hair. I mean, you saw him in prison. It's all the way trimmed down and no bald spots that are visible. What a great head of hair.
Well, you know, that's the way to look at the positive side of things, Brian.
Yeah.
You know, he killed his wife and he stole cancer patients' medicine and he ripped off all these people, but he had a hell of a head of hair.
A thick head of hair. I think people would
Thick
kill for
head of
something
hair.
like that. Yeah.
Or he might kill them and
Take their hair? What's he gonna do?
so kill them and take their hair.
It's the
So
science of the lambs.
Yes, that's who's responsible for this whole thing. But God, and the point is, again, he had a friend, and they show the picture of the friend who was a younger guy. And when he dies, then Billy Jack marries the guy's mother, who's 15 years older than Billy Jack. And the friend that you pointed out of Billy Jack's, that was say, oh, he loves her, he's the only thing in the world, or she's the only thing in the world that he loves. She's had dementia. Her family didn't approve of Billy Jack. He's found another way to fucking live in somebody's house. And then he shoots her in the head and claims it was a mercy killing. And Lynn Denton, the co-winner of the line of the show, shot her in the head and called it a mercy killing. I don't know, brother. I mean, well, that's about, Lynn's about as wrestling as you can get. I don't know, brother. What the fuck? If you were going to put an elderly, infirm, sick loved one out of their misery, is there a way to do the killing with more mercy than hold still, honey, I don't want to miss, bam, and shooting her in the head? What about the old pillow smother you saw in the Betty Davis movies?
Let's not recommend ways to kill.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not recommending anything. It's up to the individual perpetrator as to whether they want to do these things, but I'm saying there's less violent ways of doing it, more merciful.
Well, I don't know what you want me to say about that. But
Well, you could admit that the lambs agree.
I can't speak for the lambs. Who am I?
Well, bah, I say. We'll speak for those lambs. Bah, humbug. Next week, the Sheik, baby. I can't wait. I want to see the Sheik.
Is that the last episode of the season?
I don't know. I haven't been counting. They're so good. They just appear before me every week, and I live from week to week.
Pretty sure that is the end of the season. I went on Amazon Prime to watch this episode. So I think this was the last one.
Week for the night when I can watch more. Because you know why?
Because you're on it.
Because it's only 45 minutes with commercials, and there's no actual goddamn wrestling matches from today on it. It's the easiest thing I watch all week. Everything else is 3 hours long and a goddamn gymnastics meet in the middle of a goddamn romper room.
Have you ever been on more episodes in a season?
Well, it's called for. They've done
surveys. The highlight of the
surveys.
show very often. I agree.
I was the subject of 3 double-blind clinical trials. And both of those blind people said that I was the best one on the show. That way they got out of the clinic quicker.
And the third one sent you the clock.
And goddamn it, what?
He is good. I mean, dude, Jim Cornette is amazing on these episodes.
It is 10:47.
No, it's not.
You got one
it's
number
not.
right.
Next week, the Sheik.
All right. Well, let's light a fire
Yes.
under this show and burn, baby, burn.
What that's not a pitch to any sponsor.
Oh, well, it is your show, so the pitches are all yours.
You know what I'm thinking? If you haven't heard of,
I have no idea.
You don't know. Well, you'll find out. If you haven't heard the Billy Jack Haynes story or any of these other Dark Side of the Ring stories, Brian, you don't want to be left out. You want to hear things. You want to know what's going on in the world. If you have
All right, you made it this far. Appreciate you. We'll see you on the next one.